Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score. Welcome to homecoming week, which feels wrong that it's still in September and we're doing homecoming. But, you know, that's the price you pay when you have 6 straight home games, and very few of them are in October. So, Nathan Hurst, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. We finally got a little rain in mid-Missouri, which has been horribly needed for 6 weeks, and so it's a little soggier these days, and which will be nice, except for the tailgating spot will be a little soggier as well on Saturday, but it's worth it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Another tradition, at least a more recent tradition, is scheduling an absolute pushover for your homecoming game, and Missouri's doing that, but we'll get into that into a second. The first thing I want to do is kind of touch back on South Carolina, because what a fun game that was. What a fun moment of Missouri beating that ass of South Carolina team that beat them last year. It just felt really good. And of course, you know, I want to just take the time to, I don't know, let it breathe, you know, revel in it a little bit more, talk about things that we liked. I personally, I mean, anytime we do these, you know, just based off of the work, I watch each game about 2 or 3 times. Just kind of depends on how keen my eye is and how slow I want to go. I went ahead and watched it again, just as a non-working segment. Like I just want to watch him beat South Carolina without having to look at numbers and analyzing stuff. How many times have you watched this game so far, Hurst?
I watched it twice.
Twice?
I mean, that includes the first time, the lot to watching it live.
Yeah.
But I'll watch every game at least once back through, especially if it's a home game, and you listen to what weird things the color guy says, and often factually incorrect or what have you, including what I thought was very strange right at the very beginning, that they noted that Sam Horn had won the quarterback competition but got hurt, which I thought was a very strange note and in no way accurate. But I watched it one more time just to let it breathe all the way through. I'll fast forward through the commercials, but it was just as fun the second time. Yeah. Maybe a little, actually, it might have been more fun because I already knew what the outcome was going to be.
That's the thing. All the stress gets taken out, so you can just watch it comfortably. Yeah. You know, one of the things that really struck me, and I think Eli Hoff on Twitter did a good job of bringing this up with Drinkwitz and talking about the busts in the secondary, and how that busted coverage happened, and what led to some big plays. When I was doing my preview of South Carolina, I mentioned specifically, like, you cannot allow those explosive plays to happen. It's something that Missouri stunk at, and it's the only way that South Carolina moved the ball. And as we said in our post-game show, like, that is how it happened, right? They were able to move the ball mostly through explosive plays. I did not realize how severe it was. Okay, Hurst, I don't know if you read the piece or not, so whatever. I'm just going to ask you, can you name, number one, how many explosive plays did South Carolina have in the game? Number 2, how many yards did they get out of those explosive plays? And number 3, what percentage of their total yards did those explosive plays represent?
I'm going to say I did not read it yet. I'm going to say explosive plays that they had, I'm going to go 12, and that would have accounted for probably 220 of their 300-ish yards.
Okay. So I probably should have defined explosive play. It is a run of 12 yards or more, or a pass of 16 yards or more. They had 6 explosive plays. Hurst.
Only 6. Wow. It felt way more than that.
It felt like more than that. Like every play was an explosive play. Now, they only ran 50 plays. That might be part of it, too. But they had 6 explosive plays by that definition. You were close, though, on everything else. That was 202 of their 291 yards, which means that 69.4% of their total yards were gained on a mere 6 plays. That's wild.
When you hold them to negative 9 yards rushing, that makes it that much more disparate in terms of the yards that the explosive plays get. It says did they have any on the ground? I don't think so. Yeah, so they were all through the air. That's going to take up a big chunk of that total yardage.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, when you think about like the severity of the explosive plays and how much, uh, how detrimental that was to basically Missouri's ability to win. Like it was the only thing that was keeping him in the game because they would hit on something big and then all of a sudden they were in scoring position and they didn't have to go very far. Um, it actually reminded me a lot of another game that was actually way more frustrating and not as much fun to watch because they lost. Do you remember when Missouri played Wyoming in 2019?
Oh my God, I wish I did not.
I know I brought it up. That's on me.
I don't really
That's my
want to
fault.
remember anything that happened in 2019.
But here's the thing. I went back and looked because I was charting that one as well. Wyoming had crap. Where'd it go? Ah, there it is. Wyoming had 72% of their total yards gained by 4 explosive runs. It's the same problem, right? Now, Wyoming was able to win on the road and kind of equalize a much more talented team because Missouri beat them in every way they could except for locking up explosives. And kind of with this one, right? Missouri was a better team by far. It's just South Carolina was able to equalize with explosive pass plays. That's that is the magic of big plays like that. Like I said, it's a 3-point shooting team. If you can hit them, you're going to win every time. If you can't, you don't do anything. And sometimes the underdog wins, and sometimes you're South Carolina and you just hang
Yeah.
tough and you can't win. So that was it. And really, the other thing is just if you go back and look at success rates, that was the other thing that really stood out to me about this game. And again, a success rate, it just looks at the number of plays that you run. If you do you get 50% of the yards needed on first down? Do you get at least 70% of the yards needed on second down? And do you get 100% of the yards needed in both third and fourth down? That is a successful play. Okay. And South Carolina's success rates were awful. They were
Oh,
awful.
yeah.
They had a good second quarter, like I said, but 18% success rate in Q1, 50 in Q2, 35 in Q3, 10 in Q4 when they attempted 0 runs, and the only run they had was a scramble by Sellers. On the flip side, Mizzou's success rates by quarter 56, 39, 55, 64. It's consistent, it's reliable. It still gets you yards, it lets you hold the ball. That was the difference. South Carolina, boom or bust. Missouri, steady Eddie. It's not always the most intriguing or entertaining type of offense, but let's face it, it wins games. And I think this is what they need, especially if they're going to keep lugging around that secondary, because they need to play possession as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, explosive plays were the only reason it was close. Plus, and this will always be the case, the turnover, because that Mizzou was in scoring position when that turnover was committed. I believe they were across the
Mm-hmm.
40.
Yep.
And it led, I mean, that gave them an extra possession. They went down and actually scored a touchdown on that possession. If you assume that interception didn't happen and assume Mizzou probably gets points out of that drive because they've been very good at getting points of some kind when they do get in a scoring position, then all of a sudden you're looking at I mean, that's a minimum a 10-point swing and it goes from a 9-point game to a 19-point game, if not more, just with that one turnover, let alone any explosive plays after that. So those are always going to get you, especially when the defense isn't creating a whole lot of turnovers of their own on the other side, which this defense under Corey Batoon really doesn't seem to be super interested in doing both last year and this year. There's not a super havocy, create a ton of turnovers type of team, and that's okay, especially when your offense can hold on to the ball and limit the possessions. Because if the offense is not holding on to the ball, then you're going to have to create a couple extra possessions one way or another. But this defense isn't really doing a whole lot of that. They're doing a lot of other things good, but that's not one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Missouri's defense is deficient in like 2 things: explosive plays and then points per scoring opportunity. Um, they are 112th in points per scoring opportunity. Basically, if opponents cross the 40, they are leaving with 5 points. And that's not very good because on the flip side, Missouri is 12th in the nation on offense in points per scoring opportunity with 5.73. So, like, the Missouri offense is giving as much as or taking as much as the defense is giving, or relatively close to that.
Yeah.
But to your
I
point,
think
I
that
mean, go ahead.
I was thinking. I think in terms of the defensive scoring opportunity, I think that might be a little skewed by sample size because
It could be.
they do give up so many explosive plays, 35, 40-yard pass plays once they cross the 40. right? But
Mm-hmm.
they're still giving up a big long pass. Whether it's 30, if it's a 38-yard pass, that's an explosive play that equals a touchdown or gets them down to the 1 yard line, and then you're basically conceding a touchdown at that point.
Yeah.
Which happened they got down to the once against South Carolina. Actually, was it once or
Two.
twice?
Those two. Yeah.
Twice, and
Yeah.
then scored once, and then ultimately got a field goal the other time. And then Kansas, the same thing happened. Then the other basically they're only giving up. They're not giving up long touchdown drives. They're only giving
No.
up those explosive plays. So um, if it was a case of them giving up multiple 10-play drives where they get into get across the 50 and then work their way down and down and down, I'd be a little bit more worried about that points per scoring opportunity. But with only 4 games in, I think it's just a factor of the fact that they've only played games where they give up big plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we'll see. After the Alabama game, I think would be a good time to reevaluate that stat because I don't think UMass is going to give us much of anything there. But Alabama, if they're still giving up 5+ points after that game, then it's going to be something to talk about.
Yeah. No, I mean you're right. It's they're third. Missouri's defense is third in plays per game. They're only out there like 49 plays a game, 11 drives per game. That's top 20. Yards per drive, 20 yards per drive. That's 16th. Yards per play, they're at 4.5. That's top 40 in the country. Points per drive, if you want to look at that way. I know I always go off of points per scoring opportunity, but points per drive, 1.3. Like to your point, you either have to bomb it in. So if you score from long range, that's still a scoring opportunity. Or if you get it down at the 2, that's a scoring opportunity. But it takes, over 10 or 11 possessions, you're getting 4 or 5 scoring opportunities. It's just because they're explosive plays, they're usually finishing with a touchdown. So you're absolutely right on that. And then on the turnover side, like Missouri, the way their offense plays, they should be giving up about 4 turnovers at this point, which is about middle of the pack. And they've only given up 3, which is good. Now on defense, the way they've played, they should have recovered about 4, and they've only had 3, so it's about the same either way. So the turnover luck is not really hurting them there. But I'd also just point to Nick Rodriguez on Saturday and go, dude, you had like 2, you had 2 right there that could have ended it. So it's it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, the nice it could go one of 2 ways with the problem with these explosive plays based on all the other stats and how good the defense is at preventing long drives. If you fix the explosive plays, this defense all of a sudden becomes a top 10 defense in the country across the board. If you don't fix the explosive plays, you can give up 40 points to just about anyone left on the schedule, minus this game upcoming. So if they fix it, all of a sudden you are looking real good. If you don't, then who knows where the rest of the season will go, and that's really what it comes down to.
And I think that's what you need to watch for in the UMass game. Obviously, we saw it in South Carolina, but if UMass is ripping off some heaters for 20, 25 yards, we have a problem and it's not going to get fixed. And that's just the albatross that you're going to have to wear. But it's not a real test, but it is one of those like, okay, if they're doing it, then it's an actual problem. But, the answer to, this issue, like I said on Sunday's show, like the answer is to hold on to the ball and let Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts just punch you in the dick over and over again and wear you down, because running the ball in the first half was not working. Success rates were low. Any yardage that they got was purely based off of something that Hardy broke off because he's just a magic man. But it wore out over time. The offensive line was able to pummel South Carolina's defensive line into submission. They just wore out. The success rates ticked up as the game went on. So it just became easier and easier for them to run it. And you got 2 guys who can do it, and an offensive line is just nasty. So maybe that's just how it is, right? Hey, every possession we have, we're going to take 10 minutes off the clock. It's going to be 11 and 12 plays. It may or may not work in the first half, but it's absolutely going to work in the second half, and you're not going to be able to stop it. So you keep that offense off the field and just keep your scary secondary on the sideline so that they can't mess anything up. Or, if they just fix it, that's fine.
That exact same thing happened, if you remember, in the South Carolina game last year. They could not move the ball at all, running or passing in the first half. But by the third quarter, Nate Noel was 8 yards a carry right up the middle over and over and over again. So it worked against South Carolina. That's exactly what happened against Kansas earlier this year too. So those are 2 P4 teams that they did against, one better than the other in terms of the defensive line. But I think they can keep doing that, and it's a strategy that they're going to have to do. They're going to have to succeed without doing it that way. I think they can.
Yeah. We always, or I have talked about, Bill C has obviously talked about too, that experience in the secondary is the most important thing you can have, right? The older your secondary, the better off they play. Now, I think what we're discovering is not just an age thing, it's a cohesion thing. Much like offensive line where, a grunt here or there and your guard knows exactly what your tackle's doing, or like you can kind of pick up what he's going to do. I think there's a lot of similarities to the secondary where maybe you signal something and say, hey, over here, like, bracket this guy, or hey, I'm going to switch him off to you. And, Trey Norwood, Toriano Pride have been here, but Jalen Catalon has not. Dalen Carnell's been here for a while, but Marvin Burks is still relatively new on the scene and like interacting with each other. And maybe that's it too. It can get fixed. Like we all remember 2019 LSU for being just the Joe Burrow rip it show. But you got to remember, like in the beginning of the season, that their secondary was not very good. Their defense wasn't good, but part of that was the secondary. And then it just snapped into place, and they made a run and won the national championship. I'm not equating those two things. I'm not saying Mizzou's going to make the run like that. I'm just saying there's a lot of talent here, and if you could fix that, like you said, some great things could happen. So it can be fixed. It's just, we got to see it against UMass, see it with the bye week, and then see what happens at Alabama before we even get close to saying, okay, is this fixed or is this a forever problem?
Yeah, it's not a talent issue. It's a communication and get everything down. Mentally, it's a mental issue, not a skill issue, if you will.
Yeah. So we've talked about UMass. They are coming to town. They are 136th in SP plus. Nathan Hurst, how many teams are in the FBS?
I think there's 136.
There's 136. You got it. Yeah. As in, they're the worst. They're the worst of the worst. Their defense is also the worst of the worst. Currently 136th. Their offense is actually their strong suit, 127th. I looked at Bill C's extended rankings because when he mixes in FCS and D2 and D3, and then you can rank teams that way. Central Arkansas is a better defense than UMass. Oh, poor UMass. They've had the toughest jump to FBS, and then they're resetting. I feel very bad for them. But
they need to go back. They need to move back down to FCS.
I'm saying, man,
they can't be even making any money in the MAC. They're now in the MAC at least. They weren't even in the conference for a while. There's no way they're making enough money to make it this type of embarrassment on a year in, a year out worth it for their whole school.
I tend to agree with you. At the same time, Joe, I've never said his last name out loud, so bear with me. Harasimiak, I think is how you say it, the head coach of UMass. He is the first UMass coach to make $1 million a year. They ponied up and they opened up the bank and they improved both coaching salary and the salary pool for his assistants. So I think MAC money, this is going to sound weird, the MAC money's helping, or,
I guess,
not having Don Brown there anymore maybe is helping. But like, again, that's going to be something 2 or 3 years down the road. Do you still want to keep doing, are people still going to be sending money for a MAC team that can't, is 136th in the nation? UMass problems are wild, guys. Like, you think Missouri has problems, and then you look at UMass and go, oh my God, it could be so much worse. Anyway, so much like Santa, UMass is coming to town, and very much like Santa, that should be a gift of a W. Right in your stocking and enjoy that. In my preview, I mostly just said don't get injured, play the young guys, and let's see what Bobby Meyer can do as far as field goals go. And then on defense, you got to look out for the big explosive plays. Right, that's the big one. If they're committing explosive plays, it's an issue. And just hey, let's see how the scoring defense goes. That kind of goes hand in hand. But really, let's see some young guys. Guys.
I want to see Matt Zollers get in with enough time to throw, to get some pass attempts in. Get him as much experience as possible. Love to see Marquise Davis go for another 100 yards in the second half of a game. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of defensive guys, to get out there and get some run. Javion Hilson, haven't really heard his name a whole lot. Would love to see him get some run out there. So I want to shout out the running back who has one of the better running back names in the country, and Rocco Griffin, because you can't not have an awesome can't be not awesome at football if your name is Rocco. Now, whether or not he's awesome or not, I don't know, but his name is awesome. He is their leading rusher. Also, the one player I will say that sticks out offensively for them is Jaquan Gibson. He does
Mm-hmm.
far and away have the best receiving numbers for them. He's a wide receiver. He has 24 catches for 258 yards. The second leading receiver has 5 catches for 87 yards.
Mm.
They have 3 guys with 5. So he's at 24, 3 guys at 5, 4, 2. They have 2 quarterbacks that have thrown, actually 3 have now thrown passes for them. 2 have thrown significant passes. They have no passing touchdowns on the season. 2 picks, one each for Grant Jordan and Rose have both thrown an interception. They've been sacked 9 times combined, no passing touchdowns. So it's bleak. It's bleak. Their numbers are better than Louisiana's quarterback numbers, though. So I will give them that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean they got some dudes on defense too. Like was it Chambray? I don't Chambray Jackson. He played for Florida State. He was recruited by Florida State, played there. So I mean he's got some talent. And Darian Craig, I believe, was a transfer too. I know he was a 4-star in the composite. Where did he go? Was he? Sorry, I should have looked this up beforehand. No, yeah, I guess he was always UMass. So I mean, there's some good guys on there, but I mean, the defense is also the worst part of the entire team.
Yeah.
So what do I
Shout out to their leading tackler, Timmy Hinspeter, which
Yeah.
is just an excellent linebacker name. Timmy Hinspeter. So they got some real names at least. Come if you don't come for the football, come for the names. You can cheer, in the second half you can give Timmy Hinspeter a golf clap if he makes a nice
There you
tackle.
go. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, they also have Malcolm Green. He was another 4-star composite player. He's a cornerback. I think he started at Clemson. That's the other one. So yeah, I mean, they like to go into Florida and pick the leftovers of the leftovers. So there's a pretty heavy presence there, but it's gonna we're just gonna have to give them some time before we see that really, that fruit really pay off. But also Mao Glynn II, a dude named Mao. He's an offensive lineman, right guard. I like that name, Mao. Meow. They're going to get ripped up, man. It's not going to be pretty. I know you said, well, yeah, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Yes, that is true. Northern Illinois is not the worst team in FBS. They weren't. Yeah, so I'm
far from it, actually. I think they made a bowl, so
they did make a bowl. Yeah, so I'm not super concerned about that one. I will say this though, it's homecoming. We got all the festivities that come along with it. This is also going to be the last really comfortable game that you're going to get as a Mizzou fan, at least, projecting forward. Bill Connolly and SP Plus say that this is a 100% win probability game. I tend to believe that. Nathan Hurst, let's walk through the rest of this season real quick and tighten your belt. Hold on to your horses here. Alabama, 42% win probability. That's at home. Auburn on the road, 58%. Vanderbilt on the road, 50%. Pure toss-up. Texas A&M at home, 64%. Mississippi State, 73%. That's your easiest game on the record. 4-0 Mississippi State. And then Oklahoma on the road, 40%. Arkansas on the road, 57%. Now, those are going to change as we go through the weeks. But as of right now, this is a stretch that is going to get very difficult very quickly. Enjoy the moments, man. Enjoy easy wins. They are not going to be easy to come by.
Yeah, to be honest, that stretch of Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, those are actually higher than I would have each individually guessed those games to be, which is, hopefully that plays out. But, even odds at Vanderbilt, I'll take that. Slightly better odds better than even odds at Auburn. All right, sure, sign me up. At 60% odds at A&M here. Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, that sounds like you put those 3 together, you come out of that stretch 2-1, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
It's all about the explosive plays, right? Alabama, Ty Simpson, he can do it. Jackson Arnold, I don't know if he can do it, but he's got a great team around him. Vanderbilt,
yes, Cameron, who Cam Coleman, who can definitely do it.
He almost did it last week, so he can do it to anybody else. Vandy, Diego Pavia will only find the most annoying explosive play to run against you. Marcel Reed, more of a mobile guy. Jalen Daniels was able to use that to great effect. He could too. Blake Shapen at Mississippi State, nightmare fuel. They're going to just pass all over him. Oklahoma, John Mateer, assuming his thumb is fixed and everything like that, going to rip you up. Tylen Green, great offense. Their defense stinks, but like this is not going to be fun to close it out. And this is just life in the SEC. So we're going to get a lot of good tests to close out this year. We don't need to entertain a score here. They're going to win. We don't need to go specifics. Let's just go to the big news item, which is what, Nathan Hurst? What happened this week that we're going to talk about instead of UMass?
We got our schedules, or at least if not dates, at least team lineups for the next 4 years. Now that we're moving to 9-game SEC schedules, and they are definitely different than the current schedule, at least for Mizzou, in terms of the quality, the gauntlet. I mean, no SEC schedule is easy. We've already discussed that. But
Yeah.
if there was one, Mizzou has had it in the last 2 years. And that's not going to be the case moving forward. And that's not going to be the case for anybody. There's no, Texas schedule where they get super easy 2 years in a row. That's not going to happen because it's impossible to happen with a 9-game schedule now.
That's a good point. And before we get to that, I mean, yeah, Missouri's schedule was looked at as to be easy, but Alabama ranked, Auburn ranked, or they were ranked, Vanderbilt ranked, A&M ranked, Oklahoma ranked. Like, turned out to not be all that easy, huh?
Yeah. Not easy, easier, not easy.
Still not even easier. I think there's easier
Than
out
some,
there.
yeah. I think Tennessee's and Texas have already moved into the easier category than Mizzou's has, for sure.
Sure. So yeah, let's dive into it. I think we'll start with the permanent opponents, or sorry, the annual opponents, because they are going to change every 4 years. They're going to reassess this schedule. So I know people are kind of getting up in arms about stuff. I have opinions. I would prefer things one way or the next, but by 2030, oh my God, 2030. Oh, my kid's gonna be in high school. Okay, by 2030, we will get a new lineup of annual opponents and rotating opponents. But at least for the next 4 years, here's what we got: the annual opponents for the next 4 years. Arkansas could have seen that coming a mile away, right? It's got corporate sponsorship behind it. No one seems to care as much as the SEC wants us to care, so you're going to care a lot more now. And they're just going to keep that going. Sure, fine, I'm cool with it. Oklahoma, okay. Touching back to our Big 8 roots. Yeah, it's a lopsided rivalry. Still a rivalry. Still fun. Still regional. Still trying to, like I said, going back to the echoes and recognizing some tradition that comes along in college football, which seems to be getting pushed aside with all of these modern decisions. Good to see that. That's going to be a tough matchup every single year. Still good to see it. And then you get to the one where it just kind of feels like a whiff. And obviously these two teams are not top of the pecking order for SEC. I get that, but Missouri's third annual opponent for the next 4 years is Texas A&M. Like I said, I think that's a whiff. What are your thoughts, Hurst?
It is a whiff. I mean, I don't think anyone on either side is, cheering that's the draw that we get. I mean, there could be harder draws. They could have weirdly gotten Texas, for example, but they could have also gotten way easier draws like a Vanderbilt. And now, yes, Vanderbilt is having a moment, but I don't know. Who knows how long that moment will last?
Sure.
I think it doesn't make the most sense for Mizzou if you're looking at it, myopically from a Mizzou standpoint forward. There are other teams that would fit better for us: Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Any of those four would have fit better. We've played them every single year since 2012. We've only played Texas A&M
Twice.
4 times.
3 times.
Three times, maybe 4. Last year was the 4th. This year will be the 5th time. Since we moved, and even when we played them in the Big 12, I think we only played them 5 times in the Big 12 before we moved here. So I'm pretty sure we've played them maybe 10, 11 times total in our, at least since going back to the Big 12 era. So we played South Carolina more than Texas A&M certainly in the last 12 years. I would say going back to the dawn of the Big 12, we played South Carolina more, Tennessee more, Kentucky more, Vanderbilt more. That would make more sense. Plus, there's kind of some starting budging rivalries with South Carolina. South Carolina really doesn't have any rivalries with direct rivalries with anyone else that you could point to and say this is historical because they're
Uh-huh.
not that much older to the SEC than Mizzou is.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that would have made way more sense. From Texas A&M standpoint, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense either. They've got Texas and LSU are their other two teams, which do make sense. But you would have thought it would have made way more sense for them to get Arkansas as the third team. Um, but you know, uh, it is what it is. It could be worse. I mean, at least it's not super random like Oklahoma getting Ole Miss. That just
I was
seems
gonna
like
say that I think is the worst one because they've played each
it
other
just doesn't
one
make it
time.
like there's nothing there. It's just like here's a round peg in a square hole. You know what? But so it's better than that. And at least going to Kyle Field is a trip worth making. It's not a destination, I would say, but it is an experience to be had. If you haven't
Sure,
done it, I recommend it at least once.
sure.
So that's going to stay, at least get two more options, two more times to do that in the next 4 years. Um, otherwise it's just kind of, yeah, a whiff is the good whiff is a good way to say it.
Yeah. I think most SEC teams got one kind of weirdo one on their annual docket because it's hard to do this sort of thing. I get it, especially when you're trying to protect it or honor, I think is the term they use, as many rivalries as you could get. Not an easy feat, and we can pick at it, and I fully recognize that it's probably hard as shit to do. So, the fact that we got Arkansas and Oklahoma, I'm good with that. I am with you. I would have taken a South Carolina or a Vanderbilt, or really anybody from the East, but okay. I went back. I think since 1996, Missouri and Texas A&M have played 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times since 1996. They played them 8 times in the Big 12. We've played them 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Nope, 5 times in the SEC because 4 from 12 to 23, and then last year when we got annihilated. So yeah, not a ton of tradition there, but that's okay. So then you're looking, okay, so what's the rotation? Because then this is expanding to 9. Okay, you've got 16 teams in the SEC now, so in theory you should be able to see every single team in 4 years, and you do. That was the entire point of this. Well, one of the points of this. So you're looking at your rotation. Obviously, it swaps between home and away. But next year, for example, Missouri is going to have, let's see, Florida at home, Florida, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Texas at home, and A&M. Okay, Florida, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Texas, A&M at home. And then on the road, you only have 4 road games: Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. So kind of cool. 5 home, 4 away for 2026.
It's actually as these types of schedules go, very manageable, especially you only have 4 away games, 5 home games, which is great. And of those 4 away games, there's only one of those that you look at and say is just about, unwinnable, which is that Georgia game. Not that it's unwinnable, but very, very difficult. The other 3, not easy, but you've won the last time you've gone to each of those locations, you've won.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely doable.
Yeah. And so it swaps. Yeah, 1 year you have 5 home conference games, 4 away conference games, and the next year it switches. But it doesn't switch like back-to-back years. So like Florida, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Texas, and A&M are home in 26, but those aren't your away in 27. Like it's interesting. So for 2027, we play Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt at home. And then you go on the road, at Alabama, at LSU, at Oklahoma, at South Carolina, at Texas A&M. Like, look, okay,
that is, I mean, that is just going to make anybody sweaty. I don't care who you are. Just the road game. I mean, playing those, Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, A&M, period in one schedule is, that's very daunting to know that you're going to all of those places. And then why not, toss in South Carolina too, which is not an easy place to play.
No. It is not.
It's just,
it's killer.
Yeah. So 2025, 2026, make hay while the sun shines, because 2027 the sun might be taking a break for a year.
Well, and the only defense I can think of this is that you're less likely to win on the road anyway. Certainly, Eli Drinkwitz fits that mold. Why not have your hardest games on the road so you're just like, whatever? Like, it
But that's
doesn't
five.
matter.
There's five of them.
Yeah,
There's
I
five
know
road
there's
games.
five.
So
I'm just
if you lose
saying.
all of those road games, all of a sudden you're looking at 7-5
I know.
as your ceiling.
I
And
know.
that's with playing Auburn at home and Tennessee at home and Vanderbilt at home and Arkansas at home. And you're not guaranteed to win all of those either.
Now all of a
Woo!
sudden you understand Eli Drinkwitz's comment of and the Kansas City Chiefs. Like,
Yeah,
holy
yeah.
cow. Um,
That's that's going to be an interesting year.
yeah,
That's for sure.
that's gonna be ouch town. Now, also what Eli Drinkwitz said yesterday during Tiger Talk is like, look, we have no idea what any of these teams are going to be like next week, let alone next year or 2 years down the road. So there is some value in that. It just looks pretty daunting. That's all we're saying. And then of course 28, Georgia, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, A&M at home, Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Texas on the road, and then 29, Bama, Arkansas, LSU, South Carolina at home, Auburn, Oklahoma, Tennessee, A&M, and Vandy on the road. So you get Arkansas on the road 2 years in a row, 25-26. That's going to be that's really
Yeah,
getting
that
me
was
quirked
very
there.
and Texas A&M at home 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
strange. What I guess that that probably they couldn't have just flipped those because reasons I'm not
It would have
sure.
thrown the whole thing off. If you
I'm
need
sure it'll
5
throw
and
it. I'm sure
4,
there was a lot
yeah.
of science that went into this, but yeah, that is
Yeah.
strange. That's okay. If we're gonna play Arkansas on the road 2 years in a row, these are the 2 years in a row to do it.
I mean, in the Big 12, I'm pretty sure Missouri played A&M like 3 years in a row in A&M.
Yes.
So
Well, 2 years in a row, and then we played them the first year in the SEC on the road too.
there you go.
So it was like
Yeah.
it was ended up being 3 years in a
That's when we started calling it Faro South because they could not lose.
row.
Uh, so yeah, so there you go. I mean, this is what the networks want. When ESPN and they get into these conversations with conferences and they say, look, man, like yeah, we can give you, we're going to give you this amount of money for this amount of games, or you could kick that up to 9, and we could up this to whatever that they offered. And ESPN also runs the playoff. So like they are in this for the entertainment. I was talking to my wife last night because we were talking about schedules and we were watching some body bag game, and she's like, she subscribes to the same theory that I have, which is I want to watch my favorite team just whip that ass for 60 minutes and not have to worry about anything. And I completely agree with her. However, we also have to remember college football is an entertainment product at its core. And if you keep bringing in body bag games, guess what? You're not going to have the rich donors sitting in the boxes. You're not going to have people coming in and spending money, and you need to do that. So you need to find that balance between competitive balance and winning and entertainment and drawing people in. So that is a difference there, and that's what ESPN's looking for too. They're purely on the entertainment side. They don't care what your record is. Here's my thing, Hurst, and maybe you can talk me off the ledge. I am not so I am not on the playoff committee. I think you all knew that, but let's just set our parameters here. I am really curious how the playoffs dynamic shifts when it comes to assessing teams, because it seems like the past couple of years they've been valuing teams that don't lose over teams that have been tested. That is my perception. So, like, I get that the Big Ten, if the SEC is asking for something from the playoff and the Big Ten's like, well, you need to play 9 games like us, like, I understand why they are doing that. And I understand that ESPN would want that because that gives them better inventory to sell ads against and all that stuff. But I don't want ESPN to say, you need to expand the quality inventory. And oh, by the way, if you lose one more game than usual, maybe we don't consider you for the playoff. And so I'm hoping that the committee changes the way they view losses versus tests. And I'm not advocating for this BS automatic qualifier stuff. That is a bunch of malarkey. But I do want people to recognize that this sport is getting harder for every team. And just because you lose more shouldn't mean that you don't get in the playoff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I think that's going to be the case. I don't think Greg Sankey lets the SEC do this if he doesn't have pretty good assurances from on high that's going to be taken in consideration much more than it is. Because there's also nothing to say that they can't switch back if it's not working for them.
Yeah.
I mean, after these 4 years, I mean, I'm sure they probably will have signed some paperwork with ESPN and ABC, or with Disney rather, for these 4 years, because they've set the schedule for this far out. But if after 2029, it's not, if it's not in favor of the SEC, they can change. They can always change it again. So, yeah. But number two, they're going to make that change, because if they don't, they're going to be looking at bringing in 5 Big 12. Who's left? If you're not counting strength of schedule for Big 10 for SEC, who's left? ACC teams that are 9-3, Big 12 teams that are 9-3. They're not going to do that for the same reasons that, they want entertainment. They want the best teams, because that's how they make money, is having the best teams in the playoff. And a 9-3 Baylor team versus a 9-3, or dare I even say an 8-4 LSU team that has an outrageous gauntlet of a schedule. When you're trying to fill up 12, soon to be probably 16 teams, they're going to have to, just because the numbers, they're going to have to find teams to put in there. And there's not going to be enough teams that anyone with a straight face could say from the Big 12 and ACC are worth putting in there.
We'll see. I come back to the fact, just stop making changes. I am exhausted by changes. I have no idea.
It's just been so much so fast. I think most of the changes are, not all, most of the changes are for the better.
Yes.
But it's so much so fast that it's really hard to see that they are for the better, because we haven't had time to digest them in increments that are, digestible.
Yes. That's the issue. It's hard to figure out equilibrium. You don't know where your feet are. And so it's tough to gauge what to expect or how to assess and stuff like that. And yeah, it's hard. And we need to let it breathe. Just stop making changes for 3 years.
5 years. Just 3. I mean, but 5 through 2029, for example, since that's what we got to schedule through. Can we just the status quo till 2029? No new NIL rules, no new paying players rules or transfer rules or playoff changes. 2029. That's
just chill.
Arbitrary date.
Just chill.
And then reevaluate in 2029 as far as how it's gone. And then at that point, if there's more changes that need to be made, then you can readdress them then.
I agree.
We just solved the world's problems. The checks, you can Venmo me at Burst to Hurst for the solving the world's problems. And you're welcome.
Yep. It's not cheap. Pay that man his money. And pay UMass that money to get their ass beat.
Well, I don't think we're paying him a dime, because we gave him a home game last year that they made money off. So we're not even paying him to come and get beat.
That's awesome. Oh,
maybe we're paying their travel expenses. That might be it.
There you go. But get the win. That's what we're looking for. Then hit the bye, recover, get ready for Alabama. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to enjoy Massachusetts. We're going to hit the bye. We're going to get ready for Alabama. Because guess what? That's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nate G. Edwards. He's at Burst to Hurst. And of course, you can follow the Rockin' flagship at Rockin' Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rockin' Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.